Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Fast Science Concepts. Today I want to look at how atoms can change, and I'll explain what I mean by that as I go through it. But you're taught a lot about atoms, and actually there are some overarching ideas on how atomic structure can change which you need to form the basis of your understanding of slightly more complicated things. And this will span across chemistry, physics and biology. So this is an overarching concept. I want to keep this brief, I want to keep this punchy, and I will try and explain this in a way that I would normally do in a classroom, pulling it all together in a kind of synoptic and overarching kind of a way. So today we're going to look at how atoms can change. So first of all, we do need to kind of go over slightly how atoms are structured. So let's talk about this for a moment. Atoms are made of subatomic particles. They're made up of smaller particles. They're made of protons, these have a mass of 1 and they have a charge of +1. They're made of neutrons, and neutrons have a mass of 1 too. Or maybe I should say they have a mass of 1 as well. And they carry no charge. They're neutral. And finally, we have electrons. We say these have a mass of 0, they have a negligible mass, they're tiny. And they have a charge of -1. To change an atom, we can change the relative numbers of these subatomic particles. And what I want to do just briefly is talk about what happens when we change numbers of protons, numbers of neutrons, and numbers of electrons. So let's start with protons. So with protons, these are why an element is the element it is. So the protons dictate what type of atom it is. Right? If you change the numbers of protons, you change what that element is. So changing protons changes the element. That's why as the atomic number changes, the element changes. It's the proton that dictates, or the number of protons that dictates what that element is. So messing about with the number of protons will change what the element is. Okay, let's look at neutrons. So neutrons have mass. So when you change the number of neutrons, you don't change essentially what that element is. It will still be helium, it will still be hydrogen, it will still be uranium. But when you add extra neutrons, its mass changes. So it increases in mass. And it becomes what's known as an isotope. quite often you'll hear that certain isotopes of an element will be referred to as heavy something. So carbon with extra neutrons is called heavy carbon. Okay, now sometimes those isotopes are unstable. So unstable isotopes decay and give out radiation. These are often called radioisotopes. And you'll learn more of these about these in physics when you start to talk a little bit about radioisotopes and nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, and nuclear decay. Finally, let's talk about electrons. When you add or remove electrons, you alter the charge of the atom. And you create something called an ion. If you add more electrons, you increase negative charge. If you remove electrons, you decrease negative charge. Sometimes that will mean that the atom becomes positively charged. If it has a full complement of electrons, quite often, if you then remove an electron, it will start having a positive charge. So it's really important that you understand the difference between these things. These are the ways we can alter an atom for it to become something else.